Hi, my name is Saleh Shadman, and I'm the first author for the paper titled Methodological Review of Malaysia's Energy Security Measurement, a systems approach using stakeholder engagement. And now my co-authors are Dr. Christina Chin, Dr. Novita Sakundarini, Dr. Eng Wayap, and Dr. Sanjayan. So before understanding the paper, we must know what is energy security. Energy security has been defined in the simplest way by the International Energy Agency as the uninterrupted availability of energy sources at an affordable price. This concept can be further elaborated as enough energy supply to meet all the requirements at all times of all citizens in affordable and stable price. And it also leads to sustained economic performance and poverty alleviation, better quality of life without harming the environment. This definition is given by Majmudol and Kumar in 2012. Why it's important to understand energy security is because there are a lot of dimensions involved in defining energy security. The second definition, as you can see, there are at least 4 to 5 dimensions that have been mentioned in this, including sustained economic performance, so there is an economic dimension. Then there is quality of life, which is poverty alleviation, better quality of life. Then there is environment. At the same time, there is energy supply and energy demand. So energy security can be defined through several dimensions, and it is important to understand for different nations or for different regions of the world which definition is most suited and why. So from Malaysia's standpoint of energy security, we can see that in Malaysia, the most crucial dimensions are that of affordability and availability in terms of supply security. And just like most of the developing economies in the world, they would have a similar consumer demand for energy. The environmental sustainability dimension would be one of the large priorities in developing economy because they have to deal with affordability and availability first and later take care of the environmental sustainability dimension. So the problem statement why what we are addressing in this paper is that in Malaysia, energy security has not been quantified distinctly yet. So it is important for us to know the status of Malaysia's energy security numerically by defining its dimensions and the indicators also numerically. So in this research, what we are trying to find out is we are trying to quantify the crucial dimensions of energy security in order to understand what future policy implications are needed to improve the energy security scenario of Malaysia. So this paper discusses the methods in detail that are applied to quantify energy security of Malaysia. So the method of data collection. In this paper, we will discuss mostly on the methods of data collection. So the first method itself, as the paper title suggests, that stakeholder engagement. So how do we engage the stakeholder and what are the steps in doing so? So firstly is sampling, a selection of stakeholders and interviews from government organizations, private sector and research institutes. Secondly, the instrument or the tool used to collect data. So as you can see, there are semi-structured interviews and collecting quantitative data using energy reports and statistics from the ministry and energy agencies published online. And thirdly, the data collection procedure, which is through face-to-face interview, video calls, and transcribing this data, the recordings, to get a transcript of the interviews for qualitative data analysis. And then identifying the key stakeholders is very important, as it has been described here in this slide. Mostly we are targeting the government sector and research institutes working on energy and sustainability for Malaysia. Stakeholder interview questions. It's not only limited to these questions. There are follow-up questions for each of these questions, and as it is a semi-structured interview, it depends entirely on where the conversation heads towards from these basic questions. And follow-up questions are made on spot and asked according to the need of that interview at that point in time. And I believe that this is the best way to collect to collect data from semi-structured interview from the stakeholders, as this gives the stakeholders and the interviewer a bit of structure, at the same time a bit of flexibility to find out more in detail about what they want to. And then we are taking the grounded theory approach to analyze qualitative data. So first, as you see, it's observations, then the patterns followed by Then we create a tentative hypothesis. From there, you can create a theory. This is an inductive approach, mostly popularly practiced and designed by Chalmers. And this is the detailed explanation of how it works. And it's an iterative process, basically. So you keep the process running throughout. As you collect data from more and more stakeholders, you get more data and you follow the steps. And quantitative data collection. Quantitative data mostly comes from published energy reports and statistics by the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources of Malaysia and other energy agencies like Energy Commission, Sustainable Energy Development Authority, SEDA, and International Energy Agency, IEA, ASEAN Center for Energy, ACE, and many more. The best thing about data collection quantitatively from these reports is because they are published by the government, or they are published by the Ministry of Energy, or bodies that are governed by the Ministry of Energy. Hence, they are data that are reliable at all point in time. From the qualitative and the quantitative data combinedly, we create causal loop diagrams and stock and flow diagrams. This is where system dynamics approach comes into the play to quantitatively define energy security. So causal loop diagrams are visual aids that help understand how different variables in the system are interrelated. As you can see here, that there are certain indicators of different dimensions of energy security and how they are related to each other. It has been defined using causal loop diagrams. And the causal loop diagrams are further converted into stock and flow diagrams to create stocks and flows alongside the causal relation between the indicators to ensure that we get quantitative results from the model. So, the mixed method approach taken in this study combines the semi-structured interviews for qualitative data collection and grounded theory approach for analysis, along with systems thinking and system dynamic approach to model these data to quantify them it itself is a unique approach on its own. This combination of methods to collect data and analyze them leaves a lesser gap in knowledge in the field of energy security, as you can visualize data from different aspects and dimensions. This set of methods gives the freedom to the researchers to model their qualitative data along with quantitative data collected. Modeling of this data using systems approach makes room for futuristic prediction of scenarios of energy security for Malaysia in this study, which may benefit the policymakers to take note of future policy design for energy security. Just like any other study, this study also has its own limitations. Studies like this involve stakeholder engagement in two different phases that can be lengthy in duration and time consuming. The process of selecting stakeholders, connecting to them, and getting approval to interview them can be time consuming. The transcription of the recorded data and emergent coding using grounded theory approach also can be time consuming. And systems thinking and modeling involve creating a relation between the variables found from the qualitative data. So basically, this paper is discussing the advantages and disadvantages of the methods and explains the methods in detail. And these methods are followed strictly in my research to quantify energy security for Malaysia and quantify the different dimensions and the indicators to understand how these indicators and dimensions can be improved further to improve the overall energy security scenario for Malaysia.